Mike Diaz is a paralegal and wants to know where to begin to find clients and start replacement of W 2 income. Every day this year coming in has felt like I'm just waiting to be fired. Ooh, things have gotten slower and slower, and applying for jobs is just like throwing a rock into the ocean. I have a 2-year-old and don't want to put him in a bad spot. Okay, my first thing that caught me is that you're having the mindset, right? It sounds like, so I always worry that if you go into it where you're thinking, okay, things keep getting slower. I'm worried that I'm going to lose my job. And I've been applying for jobs and not getting any. And so that's sending you into this negative space that I worry about. So first try to figure out how you can think more positively about that and think, okay. One of the things that I would recommend for you, both you and Courtney Williams asked for suggestions for PI paralegal adjacent roles because she was let go last week due to a lack of work. Well, so first of all, Courtney, I'm sorry that you lost your job.
Thank
That's
you.
not pleasant. This applies to Mike Diaz too. I would take your resume and upload it to ChatGPT and literally write out what you just wrote to me. You lost your job last week for lack of work. You and I would even say, I'm open to other paralegal adjacent roles. Make sure your resume is good and updated first, though. And when I say updated, I mean like go in there and don't just copy and paste what you did at one firm to another firm. Go in and really analyze what it was you were doing and just ask ChatGPT, how can I improve my resume? What other paralegal adjacent roles might I want to consider given what's in my resume? And then also do the same thing to your LinkedIn profile, whatever you update on your resume. I want to go back and pull up the question, her question versus Mike's, because she said, thinking about trying to get out of the PI world. The universe decided I needed to make this decision sooner. So, I interviewed somebody on the podcast. She had been a personal injury paralegal. And because of that background, she went to work for a hospital, I think. She went in-house at a hospital. And then because of that experience, moved into compliance and risk management. So think about like all of the medical stuff that you're doing, it definitely moves into compliance risk management. I knew a paralegal who went from personal injury, depending on your what you wanna do, but she was very outgoing, and she then went to work as a salesperson for one of the vendors who used to sell software to the personal injury firms. What better person would they want as a salesperson than a personal injury paralegal who's using their work and or can speak specifically to them? I'd say the other side of that, just like in litigation, a lot of litigation paralegals who are good with e-discovery will go into a project manager role at an e-discovery company, and they love that kind of experience. So maybe is there something similar for one of the personal injury software companies? There's a whole bunch of them, right? Um, and not just in sales, a project manager role. And I tell people this all the time, when you're searching for a job, go look and see what the organizations are advertising for and write all of those things down in a list. What did they say is required for this job and what did they say is preferred? And have that those 2 categories, but do it for more than just one. Do it for several jobs because you'll see a mix, right? And just write them down in 2 big lists and don't stop. Write every little thing down and then look at that like that's your education checklist. That's your skills checklist. First, you would go in and say, "What do I already have?" Right? You could maybe check off 3/4 of them and then start with the what's required. Then, and this is where I would have AI jump in and help you. I would, once I got done with that list, I would feed that list into AI and say, here's my ideal job that I want. Find it, right? The actual job advertisement. Here's here's the required and preferred for similar positions. Here's my resume. Set a plan for me on what I need to get done to land this position. That's what's great about AI. All right. And so that would be my advice for Mike too, right? That mindset of, okay, so she was already thinking about it. She just wasn't doing anything about it. You, on the other hand, this is for Mike, are thinking already that they're going to fire you. You're not going to be able to get a job. And that thinking could put you out of a job. So I would first try to change that mindset and get in a better place with your mindset. Generally speaking, there are, in fact, I had a blog article on the paralegal side gigs. There's a ton of things that you can do now that could be side income. That if this is what you're meaning, Mike, like just start doing something on the side so that if you did lose that W-2 income, you at least were starting to replace it with a side gig. Um, and depending on your practice area, I know some people work as ghostwriters on the side. Some of the legal AI companies are hiring paralegals part-time to help train their AI models so that they are more specific to the legal industry. There's just so many opportunities now online that don't require you having to go clock in somewhere else.